People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
You are now listening to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast with your host, George Valenzuela.
This is education coach George Valenzuela. Welcome to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast, where I provide all educators, whether instructional leaders or teachers, tips on how to be their best both personally and professionally. Now let's get into it. We're here today with Zandra Jo Galván. Zandra is the superintendent of Greenfield USD in California, and she's also one of my new favorite people. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much, Jorge, for having me on your show.
I love that you excel in three major areas of your life. Number one, you put family first, as we all should. Two, you're very dedicated to educational leadership as your superintendent. And three, you're very passionate about fitness. Before we dive into these topics, please introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Zandra Jo Galván. I come from the great state of Cali, born and raised here. Although my family, they're Tejanos, a lot of Texas in our blood. I'm just really proud of being the superintendent of an amazing community called Greenfield, where I was able to go to school as a little girl. Giving back to my community is extra special for me, and I've been able to do this now for 7 years.
You and I met online recently, and I was very impressed with how you're a superintendent who's actually in classrooms. You are very dedicated to being involved with teachers and students, and as any instructional leader knows, the classroom is the incubator for what's needed in a particular school. School leaders who aren't in classrooms will have a tough time understanding the actual needs. So much respect for that.
Thank you.
This is the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast. And on this show, we focus on self-improvement by interviewing people who are excelling in three important areas of their lives so that we can learn from them to experience similar success. Zandra, tell us about your family and why putting them first is so important to you.
It's part of my culture about family and the familial culture of being a Latina. I'm so proud of being raised in a community and being raised in a family that loves each other so much. It's all about coming together for family gatherings and just loving on each other and celebrating our heritage and the people that we love so much in our families. That's been just something that has come very natural as a young girl growing up. I'm the baby of 6. My 5 older brothers and sisters raised me together with my mom and dad. And really proud to be the little sister that became the superintendent in their small town that they, are really proud of. So that's first and foremost. My papa is 92 years old. We bought him a house just down the street from us. And my mom, unfortunately, she passed away last year. Still miss her to this day, but truly made me the woman that I am today. So I owe my spunk, my feist, my love of people, the kindness gene, all to her. So I love my mom so much. And then going to my immediate family now, I am the proud mom of 3 children. I have a 13-year-old and I have twins that are 11, boy, girl. They're all Z names. Zoe, my oldest, and my twins are Zachary and Zia. And I love them so much. The balance is so important when it comes to any leadership position and how we continue to strive as learners to have that balance with family. Every Friday night, Saturday night, the weekends are completely theirs. We do family things. Movie night, we stay up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning eating popcorn and drinking soda pop. But it is just the best feeling ever. And then my husband, been married for 27 years. He is a retired law enforcement deputy sheriff, and he now gets to just live the dream of being at home and doing the things that he loves, and allows me really to do the things that I want to do, to be able to be on the circuit and do speaking events and panels and workshops and going to conferences, because he's really proud of the work that his wife is doing.
First of all, congratulations on having such a beautiful family dynamic. That success is not an accident. And that's the reason why we ask our guests about family, is because a lot of people want to have great family relationships. But before we get into relationships with family, what's an important lesson you learned as a kid, which has helped shape who you are now?
The lesson is pretty easy. And again, a lot of faith in our family growing up. Not only were we Christian faith, but also just really always doing things together. I'm going to have to say it's kindness. My mom and my father, we didn't have a lot, but what we had, we would often give away and invite people and see those people that were in the community that were of need and help them. We grew up in the church, and the church also really had opportunities for us to go and help people that didn't have food or didn't have things. My mom really taught me how to help the person that's by themselves. I didn't even realize I did that until going into spaces and I'll see someone and they're alone and I'll immediately run over to them and say, hey, how are you? What are you doing here? And how'd you get here? Like, it's just a strand, like a trait in us that is an inclination and a need to do it. I think I observed my mom doing that so much. We would go into a place and she'd walk out with 10 friends. And I'm like, oh my God, like we didn't even know anyone here. And now we have 10 friends that she's going to hang out with. And oh my God. So same. I think that was something I grew up with that has served me well today, because I do believe I'm a connector and love to connect people with other people and find out what their hopes and dreams are and help them achieve that passion-driven life that doesn't seem like a job, but more of just a calling.
Major takeaway: help people, be about other people, put people first, and you'll be taken care of.
Yeah.
Zandra, you talked about your husband and your relationship. What would you tell someone who is struggling to connect with their spouse?
Finding time to do things together as well as with the family is so critical, because oftentimes we're just enthralled in this work. And it is a busy work. It requires a lot of us. To make sure that we're also able to give our full self to our family, we need to carve out that time. Dinner, celebration, doing things together, going away for a weekend, or spending time with the family as a unit as well allows us just to be parents in a way that makes us so proud of the children that we're raising. Really being intentional about that deliberate time is also so important.
So don't forget, people, intentional, deliberate time about family, about spending time together and being with the kids. So speaking of the kids, I do want to ask you, being the mother of twins and then an older child, not much older, but older.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you're present with each one of them on a daily basis?
I only learned this like this last year. Everybody's a parent doing the best that they can. I discovered that we oftentimes do things only as a unit. So it's all five of us together. Kids can get drowned out, or the loudest kid can get seen more than the quieter kid. As you heard, I have 3 kids. I'm all about celebrating life and celebrating moments and defining moments in our life and saying yes. All of that is so important. Funny story. My oldest daughter, 13, she's such a little schoolgirl. She is so smart and I'm so proud of her. She excels so well and she never wants to miss school. That's what she does. And she loves when we buy her books and we do things like that with her. And then the twins, my middle child, who was born 19 minutes before my son, Zia, she's a little more shy and a little bit more reserved and quiet, loves what she loves. And my youngest boy is exactly like me, ball of energy, all over the place, whatever he wants to do, super carefree, like just do it. You want to pack a bag, let's go this weekend thing. And that's really cool, just him. But I want to go back to my middle child. We were watching the Video Music Awards on TV in July, August. She saw a band that she really loves. And I said, oh my gosh, I didn't even know you loved that band. I didn't even know that was a thing. I was all into my own music. So she says, Mom, if I could find that band, would you take me? I said, well, sure, Mija, like, go ahead, search it up and let's see, but it has to be in California. She's like, okay. So she searches it up. The band is a K-pop band called New Jeans. They weren't even going to play in the States anymore. They were going to do their Asia tour. There was only one more concert. And I live in California. The concert was in Newark, New Jersey, just outside of New York, Manhattan.
Wow. I know where it is.
Yeah. So we went to Prudential Stadium.
Right.
Where the place was going to be. She said, Mom, would you take me? And I'm like, oh my God, this is like my middle child. She's so shy. She's asking me to do that. I said, Mom, do you want everybody in the family to go or just you and I? And she says, no, just us, Mom. I want to just experience it with you. Oh my God, like, yes. Oh yes. I told my husband and the family, and are you sure you really want to go across the United States? I'm like, oh my God, this is a moment that she's asking for. My kids are very humble, even though we can provide for them. They don't ask for a lot. And if I would have said no, she would have said, okay, Mom, thanks for at least considering it. We did it. We went October 26th, 27th. The concert was on October 26th. We flew in that day. We went to the concert. We went to a show. We spent the whole time in Manhattan, New York, rode the buggies, did all the sightseeing, saw the Empire State Building, went and saw the statue. It was just phenomenal 4 days with just one kid. So your question was so timely because yes, when our children ask for time with a parent, do it. It is something we're going to talk about for the rest of our lives. She's never going to forget the time that Mom took her to a concert and we spent the weekend in New York.
That's a fantastic story. Two major takeaways here. First thing, being present with your child. Zandra told her story about taking Zia into a concert. to New York, New Jersey. And that is an experience that she will never forget. That was a big event, but they don't have to be. Just any event that is just you and your child and you're present and you're both together. That's an experience that he or she won't forget. And they will replicate that with their own children when they get older.
Yeah.
Another thing that I do want to mention is this advice I received when my kids were very little. Your kids have a long time to be older and to be old, but they have a little window of time to be little. So make sure that we spend some quality time with them in that time frame. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify or iTunes, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button and share this episode with your family, friends, and colleagues who are interested in self improvement through lifelong learning. And now for a word from one of our sponsors. Are technology issues slowing you down at your school? If that's the case, look no further than 5-Star Technology's Virtual Help Desk. Their team of experts are available to support you remotely, resolving up to 40% of common issues like password resets, device connectivity, and lots more. With just a few clicks, you'll have access to their live chat from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Just enter your email to get started. Then you'll live chat with one of 5-Star's EdTech experts to diagnose your problem. And if their virtual help desk agent can't solve the issue completely, they will dispatch the ticket to your school's on-site tech team. Let 5-Star Technology Solutions be your support partner. Experience their virtual help desk, which is affordable, efficient, and always there for you. Please contact them at 5startech.com/contact us. Once again, 5startech.com/contact us. And for your convenience, you'll find this link in the episode show notes. Now let's transition into educational leadership. You are a superintendent, so you are a leader at the highest level. How did you get into school leadership?
I always wanted to be a teacher. How did I know that? I was a 5th grader on my school campus when my oldest sibling, Debbie Cole, became a school teacher. She taught kindergarten on the campus. And I remember she was so excited because we lived at home with mom and dad, and she still lived at home. And she said, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm like, oh my God, what's that about? I want to know. She goes, oh, well, why don't you come over during your lunchtime? Because we're on the same campus and read stories to the kindergartners. I'm like, okay, totally. Because we're very similar. If you ever met my sister, you're like, oh my God, that's you, you're her. We're the same voice, same mannerisms and everything. I said, okay. So I went over there and I started reading to kids, and I fell in love with teaching and just being in front of kids and making them smile and captivating them with stories. That was when I was only 10 years old. I became wanting to love more about that. I think it's also in our culture, whatever the oldest siblings did, or if they went to college, we're going to copy that kind of, because we want to emulate who they are. We just admire our elders and our siblings so much. That's how it all began. As I grew a little bit more, I realized, okay, what else is there to do besides teaching? Like after teaching, when you want to be a boss, the baby of 6 trying to make my way in the world. So one of my 7th grade teachers said something that made me upset, but I said, you know what? Who's your boss? I'm going to be your boss. One day I'm going to come back and be your boss. And he said, well, principal. I'm like, no, go hire. Who's their boss? Superintendent. I'm like, okay, what about there? He's like, oh, the rest are elected officials. So yeah, superintendent. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come back and be that. I'm gonna be that.
Wow.
Like, all right, okay, whatever.
Wait, I just want to stop you right there. Everyone listening, that's the God in us. You can manifest your destiny. All right, go ahead, Zandra. Sorry.
Yes,
I just want to remind people of that.
I'm only 12 years old in 7th grade. And I'm telling this guy I'm gonna come back and be his boss. Funny story. He retired like 2 years before I came back.
Wow. That's amazing.
He blasted on Facebook. He goes, you know what? You told me you were going to come back. You did. I'm so proud of you. He responds on Facebook often and says, man, you're that superintendent that's in classrooms so much. He goes, I've never, ever seen a superintendent in classrooms as much as you are. He goes, I wish I would have still been there when you came back as superintendent. Like, it's just powerful moments like that you capture a moment. You say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it in the universe. I'm going to make it happen. And I did.
Yeah. That is so fantastic. And another takeaway there too is being in classrooms. I know I mentioned that in the beginning of the podcast. A lot of my long-term work where I'm in a district once, twice a month, being in classrooms with the superintendents, assistant superintendents, with the principals, instructional coaches is such an important part to the action research that's needed for designing the interventions that the kids and the teachers need. So I commend you. I applaud you. I know you don't need to hear that from me. That is exactly what instructional leaders should be, and you are. Speaking of leadership, We're living in tough times, as we all know. You can read the news, you can look at research, you can look at social media and know that this is a tough time for education. And leadership is not easy. What's the toughest part of leadership for you and why?
Toughest part, adult behavior, I would have to say. The easiest part is making the right decisions for kids, bringing in programs that we know are going to make a difference and change their trajectory, working with adults in the sense of becoming like-minded and all the kinds of things when you know that you want to do right by kids. Like that's the easy work because the district that I get to serve in, they love kids. They really do. And I'm so proud. I'm really proud. And that's why I find so much joy going in classrooms. I'm so proud of the work that our teachers are leading, our classified staff and our administration, because they do really, truly love Greenfield kids. And that's positive. There's so much joy. But if I had to point it on something that is not as joyful, I think it is when we have to deal with adult behavior, when they make mistakes and I have to help them see their way and get back on track. I am the greatest cheerleader. I'll be the champion. But when someone behaves badly, I'm the first to call them out. I'm not going to hold that in. I definitely have fierce conversations with people behind closed doors, always. I'm never going to strip someone of their human dignity in front of others. I don't believe in that. But I am going to have a conversation. I'm going to pull you aside behind a closed door. And we're going to talk about this because it's not okay to belittle people, to do bad, or to be unkind. This life is short for us to do anything that's going to harm another human being or to make them feel badly about who they are. Because life is a journey about doing better. And the first time we make a mistake, it's all about learning and doing better the next time. I'm helping others to see how to do better.
That's amazing because part of my work is helping leaders have those conversations and coaching them through a protocol or through a process where they can plan the conversation, then have it. One of the things that we've seen is that in order for schools to be transformed, the people that are doing it have to transform themselves in that process. And we're finding that when someone is self-centered, and there's different levels to it, it's difficult for them to put the needs of the kids and also the needs of their other colleagues in front of their own. That's a conversation that only the instructional leader or the leader of that building or the superintendent can have with that person because they're their boss. Maybe you can come back on another podcast and we can bring in some other superintendents and other leaders and have a conversation like that, because that's one of the barriers right now in education. How do we get everyone on the same page? The thing is this, in order for our teaching teams in schools to be strong, there's got to be administrators, there has to be coaches, but there has to be teacher representation as well. We should never have conversations about teachers, make decisions about them if they're not in the room. Zandra, there's people in your organization. There are people that are watching this podcast that are watching you on social media, actually, and they want to be like you. Leading schools or any large organization is never easy. What's one piece of advice that you would give someone who just got the job?
Be completely 100% present in what you're doing right now. And never see it as just an opportunity to get to the next level, because then you won't be your full leadership self in that role. When I was a classroom teacher, I was a classroom teacher. I gave it everything. I knew I wanted to aspire to other things, but in those years, and I did it for 15 years, I loved teaching. It was my jam. Like I love lighting up the eyes of kids, meeting with families, fiestas. We would have potlucks for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And my mother would come in and be the grandma, la abuela. Ay, viene abuelita, let's go. Like, it was just beautiful. And I didn't say, I'm only doing this because I want to be a principal. I'm only doing this because I'm going to be a superintendent. I gave my full self and learned everything about teaching so that one day, when I had to draw on my teaching experience to be a superintendent, it was going to be darn good, man. It was going to be awesome. And I'm an amazing leader only because I have that grounding in me. I am able to go through classrooms and call out essential standards and teacher clarity and tell them how to engage students to a better degree because I have personal experience. I go into a classroom, they're like, oh man, we can't snow this one because she knows her stuff. I'm not like, no, she doesn't know that essential standard. No, I do. I know them all because I live them. And then when I became an administrator before superintendent, same, always leading with heart, being firm. Because I'm a tough leader and they know I hold people accountable to the work, but I'm also going to carry them with me in the journey of doing really good work for kids. I'm going to hold their hand if they don't know yet how to do something. I'm going to help coach them if they don't know yet how to do something, or write something. I turn in collaboration so much with others. I might find someone who's doing something really well and lead another person to them. Katie, you might want to talk to Maria, or Maria, you might talk to Pablo. Like they're doing some really cool thing. Can I connect you? Yes, because it's peer-to-peer, it's a different model of supervisor to a peer. When I walk into classroom and I'll say, hey, can I step in and teach with you or do this lesson together? And they're like, yeah. And I still teach lessons. I teach workshops to my teachers too about writing because I love writing. When they see the boss being able to do that work too, they're like, oh, she is all about servant leadership and doing it together with them. I'm really proud of that in terms of just really showing people how it can be done.
Folks, if you're listening, if you're a leader, whether you're a principal, a director, a superintendent, assistant soup, don't forget, leader does not mean to delegate. Leading means to go first, to model. And let's say we don't know how to do something, we can bring in a coach or bring in another outside resource, but we learn along with our teachers, our employees, whoever. Those are fantastic answers. And you are the first person on this podcast that I've invited on that I don't know. Just from seeing you on social media, I just want you to know that everything you're saying completely, we can see that online as well. Yeah, it's very evident online. And so much kudos to you. And now for a word from one of our sponsors. If you're a STEM and PBL teacher like me, you're always on the lookout for new project ideas and resources. You know George does PBL, and I'm telling you, look no further than SmartLab. SmartLab really has a fresh take on STEM and PBL. I'm proud to be a partner, and they sponsor the podcast. But just don't take my word for it. Check out what other educators are saying about SmartLab.
When students enter into SmartLab, they are allowed to think outside of traditional norms.
It gives them a lot of agency. They feel empowered and important. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of the SmartLab environment and the way the project process is set up.
SmartLab becomes this place where they can do those things and have the time and space to communicate better and even deal with social emotional stuff. Like they're having a bad day, a SmartLab's a place where we can change the pace of what they're learning to match their mental needs for the day. And that comes back tenfold later on when they want to be there and they want to learn and they want to do stuff and they feel safe and they feel like they can get the things they need.
That's one of the big benefits of being in more of a collaborative environment is it makes you have to work. It makes you have to be accountable.
Please look in this episode's show notes for a link to connect with SmartLab. Speaking of putting things out there and putting things online, let's talk about your passion for fitness. Zandra, you do a lot of workout videos to inspire your many followers. How did you get on your fitness journey?
Thank you for asking about that. As we entered into the pandemic, we had a few choices of saying okay, do we just stay at home and get a little bit sad and figure out how to do this? Because human connection is big. For me, human connection is my life. Like being around people I love. Don't get me wrong. I love being at home on a quiet night and just watching TV, like Bravo TV and vegging out on reality TV with my popcorn and my soda. I love that too, but I love being around people. And during the pandemic, I craved human connection. And many people in my organization did as well. I started getting online and I got on Twitter and just tried to look for things. And one of my friends tagged me and said, hey, is this something you'd like to do? Like, jump on this fitness journey. And I said, heck yeah, man. What are we doing? We're at home only trying to figure out what to do and trying to get through life and then finding people that are like-minded. And I said, why not? I just connected with some ladies from LA, from Texas, back east in, I think it was Jersey, Tennessee. And we said, let's do it. It was a small but mighty group and it started growing. And it was all about showing people that it's okay to take care of yourself, especially right now, our minds were going through such trauma and not knowing that psychological safety was being compromised as well as the physical safety. How do you bring wellness into a space where people could have just gone crazy with the unknown taking over the world? That was a primary source. And I've always been an athlete in my whole life and always worked out. And during that time, I just wanted to get back into it in a very deliberate way to show other people like me that it's okay to take care of yourself. Prior to the pandemic, I will also say as a superintendent, it was unheard of to talk about self-care and wellness because
Oh yeah, I remember.
we need to be workhorses and just do the job. Like you don't need to, I don't want you posting pictures of you having a meal because you shouldn't have time to have a meal. I don't want to see you posting pictures of going on a walk because there's so much work to be done. who has time for a walk? It was bad. Not only superintendents, but everyone. Principals couldn't do it. Teachers couldn't do it. Like just people could. Coming out, that was the one positive that happened, is that a deliberate notion that people can be their true selves and talk about wellness and health, and it's going to make you a better leader. If you don't have that now, you're going to suffer. And I remember having interviews with leaders coming into my district, and the interviewee that would say, I'm the first one there and I'm the last one gone. And I'm going to give it 24/7 to this job. I'm not going to let you down. Well, I'm not looking for that response today. When you interview in my district, I want to hear you say, do you love your family? Do you have time for yourself? Are you going to take mental health as a serious thing and take care of yourself? Because that is going to make you a better leader, not working yourself into the grave.
And people that don't do that a lot of times blame their boss and blame the organization and don't realize that's a personal job. Even though it's nice that we have PD that brings self-care into it, it's still our personal job to take care of ourselves.
Yes, completely agree.
Zandra, lots of people do want to get into health. They want to get on their fitness journey, but they struggle. What are 3 tips that you would give someone who is struggling?
Number 1 is do something small that helps you move naturally. Whether you go on a walk with your family or you sit at your desk and you get a little row machine. I'm not even kidding you. I have like right here under my desk, I have my bar that I'm doing during meetings, just fitness. Something simple that you can buy. A kettlebell, buy a little set of dumbbells like at Ross or Marshall's. I'm all about using your natural body weight. I don't have a gym membership. I don't run marathons. Nothing against people who do that. Like, kudos to you. Like, go get it. But I'm all about moving naturally. So that's number 1. Number 2, include a colleague or a friend or a family member. Because if you have an accountability buddy, like a buddy that's accountable, keeps you accountable, right? That's part of it. Because some days I don't want to get up. But guess what? I look at Twitter. I'm like, oh my God, all my fit leader friends from across the nations have already done their workout. So it's guilt. So guilt sets in too. So that's a beautiful thing because you have a buddy you're going to call to either do something, go on a walk together or go to the gym together, whatever your jam is. And number 3 is include your family. It brings you joy to the very first question you asked about, like, how do you stay centered with your family? You're also doing fitness. And that's what's allowed me to keep that wellness in check. So start simple.
You've heard it here, y'all. Start simple and be consistent, and you'll get fit like Zandra. We are now winding down with Zandra, and we're going to get into the quick question fire round of the podcast. Zandra, what are your top 3 ed tech tools?
I love artificial intelligence. I love it. I love it. So I love ChatGPT and just exploring and looking at all the different platforms that AI has taken over to help us work smarter, not harder. I'm all about that. Number 2, I'm all about looking at the Google platforms. I just became a Google Fellow along with 20 other colleagues across the nation. I'm so excited about that. Being able to explore what's in the Google suite too. I love that because there's so many add-ons and things that you can do to make your job a lot easier. And then number 3, I'm all about interactive learning. What I've been able to work with our team to bring in is virtual reality headsets, esports, gaming labs. Ooh, those are so cool. And then Lou Playground, which is an interactive PE projected where you play against a wall. It's a phenomenal playground, but it's good for kids. Those kinds of things I get to bring into the classroom space to transform learning. So virtual reality, the esports gaming world, and some Lou Playground types of interactive literacy and numeracy things I love because kids crave on those and they say, thank you, bring more. So we keep doing it.
Zandra, what is your favorite education book and why?
My favorite education book, going to be like right here next to me because I love it, is Trust and Inspire. I'm reading it right now because it's a big one and we're doing it all through the platform with our leadership team and going through just that journey of how do you cultivate trusting leaders so that your teams want to lead from you and walk with you in that journey, and how do you inspire people? And it shifts and looks at the old mindset versus the new mindset. But can I offer up another one?
Sure. But who's the author of that one first?
So this one is Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey.
Covey.
Just released it last year, I think. So it's a great educational book on how truly great leaders unleash those hidden talents in the people that they serve. So this is a really great one. And we're all reading it. Every single teacher in our district is reading it too, and they're leading chapters. But I do want to tell one more because this is the Latina in me. Right back here. 2 of them, since I saw this one. I love talking about history. And Separate is Never Equal. This is a great children's book about Westminster and LA County, about how desegregation came to life in LA area and how colorism is alive and well, and that how we just need to support each other. So I pick books too, and I do superintendent story time every single night, and I read stories, bedtime stories to the kids in Greenfield. And I read books like this so that they're in touch with reality and know that they're beautiful and powerful in everything that they do, and that they don't need to take no for an answer. And along with that one, another Latina, really great book. And Prisca is a dear friend. I love her, the author. And I don't know if you ever saw this one in Times Square there in New York. It was huge for brown girls with sharp edges and tender hearts. And Prisca, adore her. She speaks her truth and really talks about how who we are is manifested in the world that we live in, and how we need to be our true selves, and to teach our young girls to be exactly who you are. If you're a father of daughters, if you're a mother of daughters, if you're a daughter, if you're an auntie, if you're whatever that is, this book allows women, Latinas, to be exactly who they want to be, and to not allow the world to judge them. And I think that's a lot of how I live my life. I don't really have time for people to judge me. It is what it is. I am who I am, and I'm going to be my true brown girl. No matter if I'm a lighter shade of brown or if I'm a darker shade of brown, I'm a brown girl, and I do have sharp edges, but I have an absolutely tender heart.
That's fantastic. Zandra, what are 3 things people need to do every single day?
Number 1, start your day with gratitude. Always. Whether you read something or you post something or you affirm something, when you get out of bed in the morning, be thankful for this beautiful life that we are able to have. Number 2, lead with your full self and your authentic self. Whatever you do, teacher, principal, superintendent, coach, lead from exactly your authentic self. Don't try to be someone that you're not. If you want to aspire to do something else, then bring that into your toolbox, but be exactly who you are and let people see your true authentic self. And then the last one is what I get to do right now. Live my passion-driven life. I am so passionate about what I get to do. I get to change the lives of kids by the things I get to say yes and bring into my district. Like, that's so incredible. That is something that is in my heart and my passion. Being a mom, that's passion. Loving my kids and my family so much. Being a daughter, like, that is living my passion-driven life and giving myself to those jobs, but that aren't really jobs. So the last one is just live your passion-driven life, because it won't be a job.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and how has it influenced your life?
Not to take things personally. That is the advice, because my younger self would have taken everything personal. The younger Zandra would have said, oh man, they don't like me. Oh my God, I got to make them like me. What am I going to do a better job so they like me? And I remember walking into a room and wondering, like, am I going to know anybody? Are they going to like me? Or am I going to have a connection with them? And then as you grow and you mature, you realize life is too short to be worried about that kind of stuff. Like, it's way too short to be concerned if somebody else likes you. You need to live your life about liking and loving yourself and giving that to the conversations you enter with other people. I'm a much more mature woman, knowing that if that person doesn't like me, guess what? That's something that they're carrying with them. It's not something about me. And oftentimes when people don't like you or they're mean to you, I want everyone to know that it's never about you. It's really about their lived experience and what someone has done to them to harm them that they're manifesting on you.
No one will ever say or do anything to us that isn't a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves at that given time.
Oh,
Zandra,
beautiful.
I picked 3 things I love and respect about you. And just to recap for the audience,
Okay.
you put family first, you're a great education leader, and you're passionate about fitness. Is there anything we didn't cover today that you want people watching or listening to know about you?
I love what I get to do. I'm just so honored to be in this space with you, Jorge, and to be able to share this conversation. Life is a series of moments and interactions with people that are really genuine. And I will carry those with me forever. I just want you to know that this conversation with you is lasting. It's a powerful moment that I will carry with me always. So thank you for honoring me with this space and allowing me to share a little bit about my story.
It's my pleasure. And this is part of the show, Sandra, where I give you your flowers. I don't believe in waiting until someone's gone to tell them how I feel about them. So here goes. Sandra, you are a special leader. You're a special person. You know who you are, your gifts, your assets. And I would imagine that areas you need to work on, even though we can't see them. I can see you in a very high leadership position. I can see you as Secretary of Ed, not just for California, but maybe the country. You are making an impact, not just in your community, not just on social media channels, but in the world. And you may not see that fully in your lifetime, but just know that you're planting seeds and you're being blessed. It's an honor for me to get to know you. I hope that we develop a friendship after this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
All right, so let's put this in the universe. Sandra, how can people all over the world, not just in California, contact you to speak at their conference, speak at their event, on their podcast, and amplify your voice?
On Twitter, X, it is at ZJ Galván. On Instagram, it is at Zan Galván. And then on Facebook and LinkedIn, it's my full name, Zandra Jo Galván.
That's it for this episode. Until next time, this is the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast with George Valenzuela.